I am super excited to have in just a moment on this show, Krysten Peek, one of the most brilliant minds to cover basketball. If you're going to listen to anyone tell you whether or not a young player is going to make it in this game or not, listen to her. She's going to talk about the Warriors youngsters and everything else going on with the Golden State Warriors and the NBA. And we're just going to have a good time. Enjoy the party. It's the Golden Days.
They always find something to nitpick, and that's because there's expectations for us to win. It was a pretty crazy night.
Woo! Let's go!
In a minute, I'ma need a sentimental man or woman to pump me up. Come on and break me off. Cause I get what I want and I like what I see. If you got
Krysten in the house. Great guy. What's the best guest to have? Thank you for joining the Golden Days. I'm your host, Cyrus Saatsaz. You can follow me on Threads and Instagram at DogWild. I'm also over on Elon's excuse for a social media platform, the cesspool known as Twitter. You can follow me there at Surf Journalist. The program is on all social media platforms at Golden Days Pod. And before we jump into it with Krysten Peek of Yahoo Sports, got to give some love to the official sponsor of the Golden Days, and that's Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. That's right, folks. It's back. From the preseason NFL to college kicking off, Bet Online has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. So if you think you know your stuff, you can get in on Bet Online's winner-take-all $300,000 NFL Survivor Pool for the upcoming season. And when the game's over, kick back, relax, put your feet up, pour yourself a stiff one maybe, light them up if you got them, and head on over to the online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of over 150 slot games. So head to the website today and use the promo code BELIEVE. It's the name of the network, BLEAV, and get in on the action. Bet Online, the game starts here. I am absolutely elated to have one of the brightest minds in basketball. That's my opinion, but I stick with that with conviction, Krysten. I believe that firmly. Krysten Peek of Yahoo Sports and so much more. You can follow her on all social media platforms at Krysten Peek. That part is super easy. How the hell are you doing? It's always great to see you. How are you, kid? Where are you right now?
Okay, so we were just talking about this. It's fantastic. It's the off season. I'm clearly moving because there's nothing. I mean, people that are listening, you can't see this, but there's literally nothing behind me in my background. So I'm in the process of selling my house. On Sunday, I am leaving for Europe, and I'm doing a 115-mile hike in 9 days around Mont Blanc. So that's happening. I mean, people say, they're like, oh, what did you do in the off season? And I'm like, oh, I chilled out. No. I don't chill out. Like, I'm always doing something. I have a problem, and this is my problem this year. Oh, I'm going to move, and I'm also going to go hike around a mountain in Europe. So
which mountain? I've done Europe twice, and I backpacked, but I never did a 100-mile hike or whatever.
So It's Mont Blanc, which is the highest peak in Europe, and you go around it, and it's 3 countries. So you start, like, I'm flying into Geneva, but I start in France. So I start in France, go to Switzerland, and then Italy, and you just do this like circle. And like my friend that I'm going with, I was like, hey, did you see we have to carry our own packs? Like, I sent him this message like a week ago. And he's like, how are you only looking at this? We signed up for this track like 6 months ago. And I'm like, oh, like, okay, so I guess we're doing this. We're doing this. It's fine.
So you're adventuring in the Alps. I'm looking up right now. And like, my sister lived in Switzerland for a large number of years. She's back now, but like I said, I've explored. I love Europe. It was a life-changing experience for me the first time. The second time was just more frivolities, but Bravo. Is Gary your dog? Before we started recording, we were talking about your puppy who Golden Doodle, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me on that part if I'm wrong.
He's
the
a
colors.
Cavapoo. He's a Cavapoo.
Oh,
And
cool.
what's crazy about living in Utah, well, not crazy at all, is you have like 3 canyons that you can go hiking up in. So there's Mill Creek Canyon, there's Big Cottonwood and Little Cottonwood, and they have all of these like trails. The only canyon that like allows dogs is Mill Creek, and you're only allowed to go up odd days because the even days are set for mountain bikers and road bikers or whatever. So poor Gary, it like no fault zone has like gotten into great shape because I take him up Mill Creek Canyon as much as possible to go hiking in preparation for this stupid trek in Europe. And he's just like, oh, we're hiking again. And he loves it, but like he is in a rude awakening, on Sunday when I just disappear for 2 weeks. I'm looking at
So
him
you're
right
not
now.
taking him with you. He's not
No,
joining you on this
he's not
adventure?
coming.
Okay,
No.
gotcha.
Yeah.
I know this is a weird question, it has nothing to do with basketball, but I care about this stuff. I think all dog owners find it interesting. Like, who watches Gary when you go on your adventures?
So my brother and his wife and their family live 10 minutes from me. And the reason why I became a dog mom and I have Gary, who has become like the sole point of my universe, was because they breeded their dog and they're like, oh, come look at our puppies. And Gary was there. So I have Gary because of them, and they live 10 minutes from me. So they watch Gary. But when I moved from Utah to Las Vegas, that's like priority number 1. It's like, okay, first find a house. Number 2, find a family that like wants Gary part-time because I'm never home. You know this. I'm never home.
I do. I'm like I said, I'm a dog dad, and I fully understand. Sometimes it's a struggle, right? Because it's hard to trust someone to watch your baby, and so in your situation, that's perfect. You literally have family watching your pup. And then we were talking again before we started recording about just about dogs, and I feel like I'm the only person who worries about poor Rocco, Klay Thompson's aging English bulldog, who is going to be 13 on April 20th next year. It's ridiculous I even know that. But it's like he's going from living in the San Francisco Bay Area where the weather is borderline perfect most of the year. I think Klay was living in Tiburon, which is just an unbelievable part of the Bay Area. And Rocco's going on these boat trips. And now he's going to Texas and Dallas. And I know he's got probably a huge house, air conditioning, but it ain't the same. It's not going to be the same.
It's not going to be the same, but I will tell you this, because after being around NBA teams and like getting to know different front offices, different, player personnel, like the amount of effort that these NBA teams go in making sure that these players that are on their team are taken care of in terms of childcare, in terms of pet care, in terms of everything is unbelievable. So like you say to yourself, you're like, oh, poor Klay Thompson's dog. Oh, he's moving from California to Texas. But when we look at it as normal human beings and like what this dog situation is going to be, he's going to be living like a king because of the way that like NBA teams take care of their own. Do you know what I mean? And so
I do.
Probably the same way where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm taking Gary from his only home he's ever known. And people are like, are you nuts? Like, he's going to be fine.
That's reassuring. I like hearing it. I always like hearing that a dog's going to be okay. That's comforting. And Krysten, again, I mentioned your social media handles, your Instagram account at Krysten Peek. There's pictures of Gary there if people want to check that out. I believe your profile is public. If it's private, I apologize.
It's public.
Okay, cool. So I don't have to edit that out. And Krysten, again, I hype you up for very good reason. I go to your mock drafts every time I need to sound like an expert, because you literally are an expert at this, and you're also your accuracy rate, your analysis is so sorry to be redundant, but it is accurate. It's spot on. And you know what you're talking about. You played college ball, so you know basketball, you know this whole sport, you know the industry. Before we get started on talking Warriors, I've always said that if I somehow ever get the keys to an NBA kingdom, you're the first person I'm calling. You're my GM. Like I would immediately do that. And I'm guessing in reality, there's some truth to that, or maybe not. Have teams ever reached out to you to hire you? Like do NBA teams want you? Do you ever get solicited with phone calls asking from GMs or front office types saying, we need you for a scouting department, we need you for personnel decisions, or has that not happened to you? Like any experience there?
I'll say this, like I will always take a phone call, and NBA teams know this. Like I have very good established relationships with a lot of different NBA franchises and NBA teams. However, I think they like the position I'm in. The NBA teams like the position I'm in right now, where like I can move around, I can talk to players still, I can talk to coaches, I can talk to the parents, and get as much information and get to know the players as much as possible. And so I think NBA teams right now, they like that. They respect that. And so, yes, I've always said, like, I will have a conversation. Like if any NBA team comes calling, like I'm happy to have that conversation. But right now, with the way the rules are set, I think kind of towing the line, being in the NBA world and also the media world, talking to these players, talking to them at the high school level, getting to know them as individuals has really like just been beneficial for everyone. Because for me, I can write stories, I can write mock drafts. And for the NBA teams, they can get to know the players on a personal level through conversations with me.
So if I'm interpreting this correctly, it sounds like you found your sweet spot and everyone's happy, or no? Is that?
Yeah, I'm somebody's paying me to cover basketball. Like I'm happy. Like that's all I
huge.
want. So
absolutely.
I'm not being like super picky here, but I think
I follow your work closely because you make me look good, and I thank you for that. And you're phenomenal at your job, and just so bravo there. The Warriors, I have a lot of question marks hanging over this team given the decisions they made the last couple of years. Let's start with their recent draft. They drafted this kid Quinten Post. I think he played one summer league game total. Everyone knows him for being a solid outside shooter. The guy can hit threes. He can space the floor. He didn't look physically imposing out there, though, and I don't know if I should have expected that or not. But what is your assessment of Quinten Post? Can this kid actually play in the NBA? What are your thoughts?
Okay, first of all, last year's draft, we just need to throw it away.
Okay.
Honestly. Like last year's draft, literally I did 10 or 11 mock drafts, and it was like the hardest thing I ever had to do. I did not necessarily love this draft cycle. I'm way more excited about the 2 draft cycles coming up or the draft cycle before. But when we talk about Quinten, and like first it was the Oklahoma City, they drafted him and then they got traded to Golden State. So the fact that he initially got picked up by I think draft expert Sam Presti, who was drafted great the last like 3 or 4 years, and then you have Golden State. They're like, no, we want him. Like, is he somebody that's going to add value immediately? No, absolutely not. This is a guy that he's going to be like a pick and pop, like secondary guy off the bench. Like that's what they were looking for. They were looking for size. They were looking for length in terms of defensive versatility, but also the pick and pop potential. And like I sat with his dad during the draft combine, and like this is a dude, he's originally from Europe, Denmark or Sweden, I think. And so he's got that European mindset and isn't fazed by, like the money or the glitz and the glamour of the NBA. So I think, for them to pick up somebody, I hate to see like sloppy seconds that Sam Presti picked up. I mean, like it's always a good decision. Like if Quinten Post is good enough for Sam Presti and the OKC Thunder, then I think he's gonna pan out eventually.
Well, that's a good sign. Yeah, and he's Dutch. You're correct there. I just looked it up. That whole cycle was weird because you're right. The Thunder drafted him, and then he got traded, I think, actually to Portland first, and then the Warriors. It was like a weird little. The whole thing was bizarre. If you look at the transactions of how Quinten Post ended up with the Warriors, there was some other weird player I've never heard of involved in it. There was cash exchanged. So, and I don't know if you're aware of this, the Warriors literally cannot add him to the team right now because they only have about $500,000 of cap space. Quinten Post's minimum rookie deal is more than that they would have to pay him. So he's in this limbo where he's not signed. The Warriors have their 3 two-way spots currently filled. So he'd have to replace one of those two if they did eventually find a way to add him. My guess is he's going to be a G League player and just that, unless the Warriors make a trade that we're all expecting. But it is weird. So but what you're saying is don't expect anything early. And the fact that Sam Presti took a liking to him, that's a positive. Is that fair?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
That is all positive. But yeah, do not expect him to be like the instant like pick and pop guy for Steph. No, that's not happening.
All right, gotcha. This is going to take some time. Okay, no, I appreciate that. So let's temper expectations for Quinten Post this upcoming season. I love it. Now, last year's draft, the Warriors went with Brandin Podziemski and Trayce Jackson-Davis. And I don't know about you, but I thought that turned out spectacularly. That was a huge win for Mike Dunleavy Jr. I saw Cam Whitmore sliding down, and when the Warriors passed on him, I was a little pissed initially, but Podziemski worked out. What is your initial analysis of those two after year one? Did they exceed your expectations? Did they meet them? Do you think they could have been better? I don't know. Your thoughts.
So I'll tell you this, like Brandin Podziemski, like when he came into the draft combine, there's always a couple players, maybe like 2 players that earn themselves millions of dollars in the draft combine. And Pods was one of those guys, like he walked in there, he played both days, and like teams were like, okay, this is a first round draft pick. You didn't know where he was going to go because you have to remember Jalen Williams, who was at Santa Clara the year before, went 12 to OKC, who's now going to turn out to be like a max contract guy. So Pods coming in, it's like, okay, where is he going to fall? And when you had a draft class where it was like Wimby, Scoot, Brandon Miller, and then everybody else just kind of fell below that, but it was still very top heavy with one and done talent. We didn't know where Pods was going to go. We didn't know where Jaime Jaquez was going to go. So when you see the Warriors take him and the fact that he was like an instant impact guy, they look like geniuses, honestly, because there was just so much hype around like the top of the draft in the first round with one and done, as it always is, because what is the NBA value? It's youth, length, and versatility and upside. So when you get like a 2, 3, 4-year player, you're limiting that space. But with both those players, Jaime and Pods, like they were so good their freshman year, or not freshman year, their rookie year in terms of like, in their rookie year in terms of like playing alongside guys like Wimby and Brandon, and still popping the way they did. So yeah, I was shocked that he went that high, but also like not really surprised that, the teams that found the 4-year, 3-year players that they did were able to be, productive with their draft picks.
And again, Podziemski, he made the first team All-NBA rookie team, which was, I think, wildly exceeded expectations. He shot 43.8% his second year in college, which was at Santa Clara. And I think that's a huge reason why they drafted him. I know for his size, he's 6'4", but he averaged, like 8.5 rebounds a game in college. That undoubtedly played a part in him being selected in the first round. But his shooting, I think, is where the value is long-term for his career. And correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. He shot, and then part of the reason why I say that is because besides college, in the month of April, he finished strong. He shot 58.8% from beyond the line, which is phenomenal. I know the April sample size is smaller than normal, but still, I think the Warriors are hoping that's a sign of things to come. Now, they had a chance to get Lauri Markkanen, and supposedly Podziemski was the obstacle in that trade, the piece that the Warriors were not willing to give up, if reports are correct. What were your thoughts on the fact that the Warriors look at Podziemski that highly where it basically came down to him or Lowry, and they went with Pods. Like, what was your reaction to that?
I'll say this. So we saw Team USA and the fact that they won gold medal, and you see who is the guy that does everything. Devin Booker. I'll do it. I'll do it. Even Steve Kerr in the press conference after they won the gold medal, he said, nobody's asked me about Devin Booker. He's the unsung hero. And so you look at those glue pieces and those guys that aren't Steph, that aren't LeBron, that aren't Kevin Durant, and you look at the value that they bring to a team, the guys that are stepping up, that are the number one rebounder in the rookie class in terms of offensive output. Like, you look at that and the way that they are just completely year one buying into your system, buying into everything. And you're like, we cannot put a value on this yet. We've only had this kid in for 1 year. Lauri Markkanen, like, I mean, I live in Utah. I know the Jazz. Like I understand the value in Lauri, but when you don't even know what you're getting out of a player yet, and especially after a rookie contract, like, it doesn't surprise me, especially that it was Steve Kerr and the Warriors, when you have a guy that is literally willing to do everything and anything to help a team win. And I know this from covering pods. I know this from talking to his dad, talking to his family. Like, this is a dude that wants to have longevity in the league. He's already bought into the Warriors. They're obviously, already very sold on the program. So it doesn't surprise me that they're just like, after 1 year, they're like, oh yeah, all right, throw him in the deal. Like, it's fine.
I'm excited to see what year 2 is going to bring, because this kid clearly has work ethic. The potential there is sky high. Now, what about Trayce Jackson-Davis? A two-part question, if you don't mind. One is, in your opinion, why did he fall so low in the draft last year when he was projected to potentially be a first rounder? I can't remember where you put him in your mock draft, but I did see a lot of mocks that had him going in the first round. I remember him in college being a pretty solid force inside. Great rookie campaign. I know he's old by rookie standards, and maybe that's why his draft stock fell the way it did. But in your opinion, like, why did he fall so low? And what can people expect in year 2 possibly?
I will say, okay, so the reason he fell was because, obviously you hit on it, was his age and just his body of work at Indiana. I mean, you saw glimpses, but it wasn't worth like, okay, we're gonna totally go in on this guy and give him guaranteed money as a rookie because of this. And when you look at him falling to the second round, it was a great pickup for the Warriors, and the value that they got in him. Like, he's great in the pick and pop. He has great instincts that way. And I think in college, he got a little pigeonholed just with his foot speed and the way he defended. And so teams were kind of like, all right, well, when the NBA game and the pace picks up, is he going to be able to adjust? And he showed very well, like, that wasn't an issue. I think the spacing really helped him, because you see him in the pick and roll and pick and pop in Indiana, and like, he had limited chances just with the way the defense was able to recover. And then the way the NBA game is played, he had more space. So he was more successful that way. And like, I don't think there's any way to predict that with a player like Trayce, but I mean, it's a great problem to have, if you're the Warriors. Like, oh, we got this second round pick who ends up being awesome in his rookie year and being able to contribute immediately in the secondary unit. Like, nobody can, like, that's the beauty of the draft. Nobody can predict when players like that can hit or not.
Absolutely. It's impossible. And that's where, like, you nail it so consistently in your analysis and your mock drafts. It's why I give you the respect you do. You know what you're talking about. You're good at what you do. And I can't thank you enough for the time you take to join a program like mine. Now moving along with the Warriors youngsters, there's 2 more, if you don't mind me asking you about. And those 2 youngsters were both taken in 2021. One is Jonathan Kuminga, who I believe you had in your mock draft as 5. And then the other one was Moses Moody. Both lottery picks, one of the deepest drafts in recent NBA history. Yet in year 3, Kuminga was 7th on the Warriors in minutes, Moses Moody was 8th on the Warriors in minutes. I don't think Kerr's a big fan of Moody. Otherwise, we wouldn't see him getting the DNP still. I don't think we'd see him in all these trade talks. If Kerr valued him, Kuminga might be a different story. They're both entering year 4. How have they progressed in your eyes? And like, how do you see them as players entering the season? Like, do you see breakout years? What can Warriors fans expect, I guess, from your perspective?
Here's what I'll say. I mean, you talk about Steve Kerr and the way that he's undervaluing. Kuminga is getting minutes, Moody not so much. So that's why you're seeing him in trade talks. Like, I don't know what sort of expectations from Moses Moody that Warriors fans should have. I still hold out hope for Kuminga. And I don't know if this is a situation where, he's not getting the playing time. He's not getting just the rhythm, the offensive opportunities that he needs to for the Warriors. And I think the Warriors, they fear what they're going to end up happening. It's going to be a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander situation where, like, if they let Kuminga go, then he's going to go to another team and completely flourish.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't want to. They're holding him at value because they know what he can be. He's just not that in their system because of what is in place in front of him with, Andrew Wiggins, with, Steph and Draymond and the entire offense that they have already in place. So I think it's twofold. It's, these guys are entering year 4. It's a lot. Like 4 years in the league, they're no longer rookies. So it's like, what can you get from them? I think there's a lot more value with Kuminga that they're kind of holding to their chest. And with Moses, it's like, yeah, he was a lottery pick. They were hoping he'd be the secondary 3-point shooter that could come in, and he's just not getting the touches or the offensive opportunity that, I think he wants, and also what the Warriors want from him.
I don't know how much you've studied this Warriors roster, but when you look at it now,
I have not.
All right, so
we can talk about it.
Then I won't be super specific in this, but one thing that I think a lot of observers are noticing is, for the first time in a very long time, there is no clear-cut number 2 offensive scorer on this team. Like in years past, it was Clay, it was Durant, or maybe Durant and Steph swapped. But the point is, right now, there is no clear-cut number 2. Like, and the candidates could be Kuminga, it could be Podziemski, it could be Wiggins if he gets a turnaround, despite the fact that for 5 or 6 years in a row, his scoring has declined in every single year. From the top of your head, from the best of your recollection, based off what you remember, who sticks out to you? Like, who do you think the Warriors are going to count on for offensive production when Steph is not on the floor, or even when he is?
I think it's going to be Wiggins. I think Pods is going to get way more offensive touches this year. And Kuminga, I think those 3 are kind of like in the mix, to fill that gap, to fill that hole that Warriors fans and the organization has been very, apt and just reliable on the Klay Thompson thing. So, this could be Kuminga's year. Like, you don't know. And I'll tell you something, like, what I love most about Kuminga and JK is, like, every time I see him, I'm like, oh, JK, what are you doing in the off season? What do you do? He's like, what you mean? What's the off season? He's like, I'm working. Like, that's all he ever says. So you see these guys going to Ibiza, you see these guys going to Mexico or whatever. And JK is like, no, I'm in the gym. I'm working. Like, he has no conception of, like, off season, because to him, he's such a competitor. He's like, no, I need to win. I need to, show either the front office or the coaching staff that, like, I'm valuable to this program. So I don't know. I still expect big things from JK.
Oh, me too. Absolutely. I just want him to have the opportunity, and I hope he does, because being 7th in minutes in year 3, I did not agree with that decision. I'll just leave it at that. But I see what you see too. I think this kid's potential is tremendous. I dedicated one episode to just his background, his upbringing. There's a lot of humility there, given partly to the fact that he did not grow up with privilege. He grew up in a very impoverished situation where he witnessed the Civil War around him at times in his childhood. That's going to affect you. That's going to form you as an individual. And I resonate with that. And I hope, and I agree with you from everything I've heard too. He works hard. The ethic is there, and let's just hope it translates to success. I'll wrap up the basketball questions, Krysten, with this. We all witnessed Stephen Curry having this phenomenal Olympics. He saved the day literally in that Serbia game.
Literally.
Like imagine the conversations if they lost that game. It would have been catastrophic for certain individuals, right? But he saved the day. Do you feel like the Warriors are doing him justice with this current team?
Oh man,
is that too big? Is that too loaded? I apologize.
But no, it's fine. No, I honestly the confidence that he had for Team USA, that came from the Warriors. That came from Steve Kerr. So I don't think it's necessarily like they're not doing him justice. I think it's more of he has been in those moments. He has been in those championship moments. He's been in those games where he's had to turn it on. He's had to become Steph and hit however many threes and become the night, bucket that we all love. And so he would have not been that player without the Warriors. He would have not been comfortable doing that without Steve Kerr at the helm, as the head coach. And so when you slide him alongside the best players in the NBA, yes, it took him a minute. Like I think Anthony Edwards said, he's like, oh yeah, Steph showed up 3 days ago. We're glad to have him. But some players like that are slow burns, and that's fine. I mean, but he knew when he had to step up and when he had to come. I don't think that the Warriors are doing him a disservice. I don't think any of that. I saw all of the Twitter and the social media when he took down Golden State Warriors guard and changed it to Team USA gold medalist. Is like, come on, he's just happy to win a gold medal. It's his first time being USA. I don't think that there's anything that you need to read into that other than he's happy to be a gold medalist. There's too much involved for him to be like, oh no, I'm gonna leave. Where's he gonna go, by the way?
Nowhere. No, he's not going anywhere.
He's not going anywhere. No. If anything, it's okay, is Minnesota, should they be worried? Should Book, who's gonna come join him? He is the sedimentary placeholder. I don't think that there's any worry at all for Warriors fans in terms of his future.
And literally the episode I hosted before today's was addressing these fake accounts that try to spread fake news about just anything, right? The NBA Centel, an account like that, because they posted these screen captures of fake Instagram stories Steph was publishing where he was indicating wanted to maybe play for LA with LeBron, and I had to quash all of that to ease the worries that Dub Nation had. And I don't know why I just remember this, but Krysten, you first came on my radar in 2020 because you were one of the individuals out there who very accurately, in a very astute manner, made it very clear the Warriors should not draft James Wiseman. They did not listen to you. In your mock draft, I believe you had them selecting LaMelo Ball, which would have been infinitely wiser. Who knows, how everything looks today. So kudos to you all these years later for continually nailing it. Is there hope for Wiseman, by the way? It's incredible he got another deal. There's still a possibility, but you were right, 100%. Your projection was accurate. Is there any hope for this kid still, or do you think it's just he's almost done? What do you?
No, I mean, when you look at him, when you look at players like Marvin Bagley, who I love both these players. They're on the same trajectory as Harry Giles, where it's the injuries unfortunately have really caught up with them. And what did I just say? Teams really value youth, length, and upside. And when you start to be in the league and consistently have injuries over and over again, then your value just goes down and down and down for teams.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. But that's how it went, and the Warriors have to live with that decision. They should have listened to you, Krysten. I always say that. let everyone know you have a lot going on. You write for Yahoo Sports. I don't know if you're still with Rivals. Maybe you still are. You host a podcast. Please promote everything that's going on so people can follow your action and become smarter when it comes to basketball and probably a lot more.
You can read all my stuff on Yahoo Sports. Follow me on Twitter at Krysten Peek or Instagram at Krysten Peek. And it's the off season, so there isn't a lot. Like I'm writing tanking this week, like teams that are going to tank for Cooper Flag and Ace Bailey. But leading up to this draft year, this is going to be a really, really fun draft cycle. So it doesn't matter if your team doesn't have a high draft pick or whatever. Like it's going to be really, really fun to kind of read up leading to it.
Yeah, and you bring up Cooper Flag. I thought that was the biggest reason why Utah would have given in and traded Lowry, because I thought, at least in Danny Ainge's mind, you want to tank for Cooper, right? I mean, this kid,
right.
like, is all the hype gonna live up to it? Like, is he overhyped? Like, it sounds. I mean, he played against the best in the world in those Olympic warmups, and he totally held his own. I guess. Were you surprised that Danny Ainge opted to bring Lowry back just because it's going to hurt his chances of tanking? Like, I don't know. I know that's a weird question, but what was your reaction to that, given Cooper could be the next big thing?
Here's my thing. It's not just Cooper this year. It's not Cooper. Ace Bailey is like the consolation prize that everyone's trying to figure out. Like, okay, is he going to be Anthony Edwards? Like, is he going to be the next star? So you've got Coop, you got Ace Bailey, but also next year, it's like, okay, you also have AJ DeBonsa and you have Darren Peterson and you have Cameron Boozer. And so, like, if you are looking to tank, which maybe Utah is, maybe they're not, maybe they're just looking to like get in that top 6, top 7 range and then try just to like work their luck to get into that top 5. Like I understand it, but also I live in Utah. Like, I hate saying this. I live in Utah for a little bit longer for the next month. And by the way, this is totally what's going to happen. Like, I'm going to leave Utah and Cooper Flag is going to end up at the Jazz, and like AJ DeBonta, who's the number 1 high school player, is going to go to BYU. Like, that's totally going to happen now that I'm leaving. But I will say, anybody like Lowry, if Lowry wanted to resign and he likes the Jazz and he likes, the organization and he likes living here, that does not happen a lot. It's a smaller market. Not everybody loves Salt Lake City. Not everybody loves the Jazz. Not everybody loves like the fan base. So if you have a player who is actually good, like Lowry, and they're like, no, we really like Utah. We like the Jazz. What are you going to say? No, we don't want you. So we can maybe get a 14%, 10% chance at this player in Cooper or Ace Bailey. Like, no, you re-sign him because they actually like Utah.
Yeah.
And so that I understand, but I also get where it's like, it's not a guarantee anymore. Like you've got the Washington Wizards, you've got Detroit, the Brooklyn Nets. Like, these are teams that are putting themselves in favorable positions to get a high draft pick. So it's not a foregone conclusion if you're the Utah Jazz that you're going to get either Cooper or Ace. Sorry, I just turned this into like a draft thing.
No, dude, don't ever apologize for anything. No, I feel like everything you talk about, I'm interested in. So no, I'm very excited to see what happens in next year's draft. And your most recent story, by the way, which was awesome, because you're right. This time of year, it is a struggle to produce content pertaining to the NBA, which is why on top of every other reason, I'm so thankful you joined me today. But your recent story is an NBA rookie ranking. Taking as you titled it, a way too early look at the rookie of the year race after so early. But you listed Reed Sheppard number 1. Man, the Rockets could be really good this year. I noticed people were sleeping on them among this vastly deep Western Conference. Like, Reed Sheppard, like the fact they added him to the stacked roster already, it's incredible.
Anyway, you know what? Let me tell you my favorite story about Reed Sheppard in Summer League. So all the players, newsflash, secret information, they all stay at the Wynn, right? You spend a lot of time at the Wynn talking to NBA execs, talking to coaches, talking to whoever. So I was over at the Wynn and I was meeting with somebody from a team. And then like I go out and get an Uber. And as I'm walking out, you have all these fans and they're like waiting to get autographs from people. And they're stopping like nobodies. I mean, they're stopping like G League players. And Reed walks right past Reed Shepherd, like the summer league hero, like who completely came out of nowhere. He walks by all of them, is just on his phone. And he comes and he stands right next to me. Nobody's bugging him. And he's just like, oh, hey, KP. And he's like, I'm just waiting for my Uber. Like nobody's bothering Reed Shepherd, but they're like waiting, for like Jet Howard and like whoever. Like,
do they not recognize him?
Because he's not like everyone.
That's amazing. Funny. Because he's like 6'1", 6'2", right? Isn't that?
Yeah,
so
he doesn't look like your typical like NBA star. So if you don't know who Reed is, like, of course you're not going to bother him, walking out of a hotel. I was just like, oh, hey, Reed.
That reminds me of 92 when John Stockton said like no one was talking to him when he was in Europe. While throngs of people were crowding Jordan and the rest of the Dream Team, and John Stockton's just enjoying a regular European vacation with his family, unrecognized. That's incredible. Krysten, again, you produce unbelievably phenomenal work. And I went to my one experience going to Summer League was back, I think, like 2012 or 13, before it became what it is now. Where the gym, you smelled cigarette smoke. There were just, you had an interesting eclectic mix in that crowd, a sparse crowd at that. So, but the reason why I bring all that up is because the most memorable part of my trip was not Summer League. It was going to taking my dog to Red Rock, which is an awesome, I think it's a state park. I don't think it's a national park, but my point is Red Rock Canyon National Conservation, I think is what it's called. It's awesome. So I think Gary, your dog, will love that.
Love that.
Enjoy it.
I'll take Gary there. Yep.
And good luck on your move. Good luck on Europe, hiking the Swiss Alps. That's incredible. Bravo. And people can follow your actions. I'm sure you're going to be posting a lot of content from your trip on your social media accounts, which people can follow very easily at Krysten Peek. Krysten, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough. Anything else you want to promote, or do we cover everything real good?
Oh, yeah. I am very excited about this draft season, and, go Warriors.
Yeah, go. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thanks again to the talented, the brilliant Krysten Peek for joining me. Always grateful that she fits my little show in on her busy schedule as she's about to go to Europe. Incredibly bright individual. And again, I always defer to her expertise when it comes to draft picks and young players. So yeah, thanks again, Krysten. Thanks again to all of you for joining the show. We'll be back at this on Wednesday with Casey Stern for a new episode of NBA Coast to Coast, not at our regular 1 p.m. time. We're going to start 1 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to start a little bit later. Follow my account on Threads, @DogWild. I'm going to post the new time for that because we always go live with Casey. But again, thanks again to Krysten Peek for joining the show. And thanks to all of you. We'll be back at this soon. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.